So as Sean mentioned, I'm going to give a talk about the lessons learned through the eyes of an Anders Army veteran. And it's really interesting that my father I meet with weekly, several times a week, and he's still telling me stories. This is the cover of the book that I had published in late 1916. And I learned his story almost by accident. I had only learned it for several years up until the publication. So I grew up not knowing his story. After I published the book in late 2016, it's just opened so many doors, and which has actually led to this talk that we're having today. So just to give you a little idea of how we're going to go about this, I'm going to talk about generally my father's story during World War II, but kind of bookend with that the Russian invasions that happened before and after that, as well as the Russian invasion that was very paramount in starting the World War II. This here is a picture of my father. Sean had mentioned that we went to Monte Cassino to celebrate the 75 years of the Anders Army victory at Monte Cassino. I went with my father, and here he is being recognized, meeting the Polish president, Andrzej Duda. And I can tell you that I would have never imagined that this would have happened just 10 years ago, because my father's story was hidden. And so much of what we now know, it was also hidden to some degree. So my intent today is just to, bring a lot of those things to light, to tell his very adventurous story, and just to share and impart some of the things that I have learned through my father, all of which, by the way, is corroborated, through history. But, much of what I share with you is the lessons of a son as learned through his father. So to begin, let's kind of go back a little bit and look at, the world landscape in the early part of the 20th century. Russia was in the throes of a civil war. The Tsar, Nicholas, had just been removed, ending hundreds centuries of rule. And it was rife for a revolution. So Joseph Stalin was very, he was the person who led the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia's quest to spread communism. He was very much influenced by Marxism. So at the same time that this was happening, Poland had finally regained their independence after 123 years of being partitioned between three of Europe's powers. And the person behind this surge of Poland's independence was Józef Piłsudski, who during World War I led the Russian legions. He was captured by the Germans and he was held there. He refused to fight with the Germans. But when Poland finally regained their independence in 1918, Piłsudski was recognized as the chief of state of Poland. So you had these two merging things happening on the border between Poland and Russia. So Russia and Stalin, they were very much in the mindset right then of spreading communism. And because Germany had just lost the war, World War I, they viewed Germany as being there as ripe ground to spread the communist revolution. So their army, Lenin's Red Army, headed east in thinking that they would get through Poland without any trouble, and they would go into Germany and spread the revolution. They were so confident that Stalin, who was under Lenin, even said, let's not move all your forces, to Poland. Let's also move some south, because their belief is that we're eventually going to get into Vienna and Italy. So the Russian surge thought it was going to be pretty easy. The only thing stopping them was Piłsudski. He had his army, what was left of his army of the Polish Legion. He was also joined by some volunteers from the Ukraine army, and they obviously, it was a lot to ask of them to defeat the invading Russian army, but they put up a fight that was quite surprising. The Russian army made it all the way to Warsaw, in what became known as the miracle of the Vistula. The Russian army was bogged down, and the Piłsudski with his legion, with the volunteers, there was even Boy Scouts, virtually all of Warsaw galvanized together to stop the invading Russian invasion. So it was indeed a miracle, termed the miracle of the Vistula. The Russian army troops headed back. They retreated back to Russia. They had been defeated, which was, quite frankly, it was a shock. And they viewed right then that rather than extending our revolution, the communist revolution, into Europe, we're going to solidify it here in Russia and work to, spread it at a later time. The Western powers were involved then in a treaty. Russia actually sued for peace. So the Western leaders worked to formalize a peace agreement, and which basically put a dividing line between Poland and Russia. And when you look back at that today, the dividing line was not really what Piłsudski, what the Polish country at that time was hoping for. They did not regain the land that they had hoped to regain, as they wanted to rebuild Poland as it was when they were part of the Polish-Lithuanian Empire. So the West, in many ways, actually conceded to Russian demands just for terms of having peace. But there was peace. It was a very fragile peace. And as a part of this peace, the Ukraine was actually partitioned. So the Ukraine was split up, in between. Part of it, what would have been the Ukraine, was under Polish territory, and a much larger part under the Russian territory. So that was, kind of the landscape of what was happening in the early 1920s. And I explained that to kind of give you a little background between my family. So my father's family, they lived in a town called Bochnia, Poland. It's probably about 30 miles from Krakow, in the foothills of the Carpathians. And as I grew up, I didn't hear a whole lot about my father's story other than how much he enjoyed growing up in Bochnia. The picture on the left is my father's family. That's my father right there, Marion. And I'll refer to him a lot in this tale that I tell you as Ian. That was what he was often referred to, Ian. His brother Stefan is right there. Stefan was 2 years older than my father. And Stefan is, his story is also very much in the lecture that I'm going to give you today. So my father had 5 brothers, 1 sister. Bochnia was known for a famous salt mine. And to the right is my grandfather, Stefan Sr. Stefan was the head of the county law department in Bochnia. And as the German invasion was taking shape, my grandfather also served kind of secretly as the military head for the district. And as the German invasion became paramount, they knew it was going to happen. My grandfather arranged for his family and other families of government officials to head in a convoy and escape the invasion by going east. That's kind of what was happening in early September. Of course, the Germans did invade on September 1st of 1939. So what my father's family did not know, of course, is that there was during Stalin and Hitler had a non-aggressive pact that they decided that they were going to split and divide Poland. So as Germany invaded from the west, they knew that the Russians would ultimately invade from the east. Now, my father and his family, they ultimately, I'm going to move this picture down here a little bit. They ultimately left Bochnia on September 3rd. And when they went to join the other families had already left. So they were on their own and traveling east. And for about 2 weeks, the family headed east to avoid the Nazi invasion. So if you look on the map here, here's Krakow, and Bochnia would be right in about this area right here. And they headed east, and after about 12 days, they made it just about here, which is very close to the Russian-Polish border. The following day, which was September 17th, my father happened to get up early in the morning. It was a Sunday. He went to take a walk. He saw a Russian patrol entering on horseback. He approached him on horseback. And they both just stopped in their tracks, stared at one another. The Russian patrol realized it was just a Polish team. So he ultimately sped past him. But what followed was a line of Russian tanks. So my father was very likely the very first person that saw Russian tanks entering Poland. And the Russian tanks did enter on September 17th. So my father rushed back to inform everybody that now the Russian army was approaching from the east. They knew right away that Poland was now under invasion of 2 different invaders. The family felt, well, they're right here on the border, and there was a lot of intimidation. There was pretty much lawlessness. So they decided that they would be better off going to a larger city. So they went again on horseback, and they went here to the city of Tarnopol. Tarnopol is a fairly large city. There were many refugees that were there. So they joined those refugees, thinking that they were now in somewhat safe from Russian invasion and also German invasion. But of course, by that time, the Russian troops were also in control of Tarnopol. There was a Polish saying that it's better to die with your head on a loaf of bread than with your head by the sword. They decided that going back to Poland would actually be the lesser of 2 evils. So the family decided that rather than stay in Tarnopol, they were better off going back to Bochnia. They were seeing families being rounded up and sent to Siberia. So the family managed to get some money so that they could try to get train tickets to go back to Bochnia. But they were stopped right here in the city of Przemyśl. And you'll notice that Przemyśl is right on the border. That thick black line is the dividing line of what Russia and Poland had agreed to would be the line of demarcation between Russian and Polish, between the Russian and the German line. There's a river there called the San River, and here's a picture of Przemyśl on the lower right. And the river right there is the San River, was the dividing line between the Russian and German occupation. My father and his family were staying in a monastery with probably about 1,000 other Polish refugees. They were on the side closest to us in the picture. This picture was actually taken from a clock tower. And he said he noticed that the other side, the German side, seemed much more neat and orderly, while the Russian side, the side they were on, seemed to be full of chaos. But, that's where they were. And that's where they stayed up until April of 1940. And it was in about April of 1940 that if you had the proper paperwork, Polish families could cross the river and go back to their hometown. So the family did walk across that bridge, got on a train, and they did head back to Bochnia, knowing that they were going to be going right back into German occupation. And that took place in April of 1940. So, as I mentioned to you before, I'm going to kind of explain to you two different things that were going on. There's my father's story and his brother Stefan's story. Now, my father was 15 when the war broke out. Stefan was 17. So Stefan decided before the family left for Tarnopol, he wanted to go and find a way somehow to fight for Poland. So here the family was, they were somewhere, as you can see, this is where originally they were, here's where Przemyśl is. Stefan left them when they were near the border, and he made his way back to Bochnia and decided that he would go into France and join the Polish army in their battle against the Germans. However, he knew he couldn't go directly west because he'd be going right through Germany. So his plan was to go south, skirt Germany, and then come up through northern Italy and reach France that way to join the army. He made it through Czechoslovakia, and somewhere around Hungary, he got stopped. There were Russian patrols there. They accused him of being a spy. They sent him to Kiev, where he was held in a prison. And in Kiev, on the 6th day of constant torture, he finally admitted to being a spy. He signed the papers, and he was sentenced to 5 years of hard labor in Siberia. From Kiev, they actually were marched 500 miles to Moscow. So this distance here from Kiev to Moscow, prisoners were marched. Many, of course, died. They couldn't make it. They were shot on the roadside. Once in Moscow, he was held in the Lubyanka prison when he was ultimately shipped to Siberia, which is where he was to serve his sentence. Of course, the thought being that if you went to Siberia for 5 years, somebody told him on the first day, this is your death sentence. Nobody will survive 5 years in Siberia. And in the off chance that you do survive, they will simply extend your sentence. So here's a picture of Polish soldiers in Siberia. You know, their job was to knock down timber, very difficult living conditions. And about the time that this was happening, actually in early 1940, there was another major action that took place. After Russia invaded Poland, they captured 8,000 Polish officers, and they held them at a camp near the Katyn forest. And in around March of 1940, the Russians actually massacred 22,000 Poles in Katyn. They killed the 8,000 officers, which was virtually all the Polish officers that were not fighting on the Germans, all the Polish officers that happened to be on the eastern half of the country. So they murdered 8,000 officers, 6,000 police, and 8,000 Polish intelligentsia, which was a combination of priests and university students and professors, just a lot of individuals who were part of what was termed the Polish intelligentsia. That was kept secret. They hid the bodies, they buried and hid the bodies. So that was taking place while Stefan was actually being held in Siberia with many of the other Poles. Now, there's one other person that came into light at this point. So General Władysław Anders was not captured originally by the Russians in the territory of Poland that the Russians had taken. He was farther west fighting the Germans. When Władysław Anders heard that Russia had invaded from the east, he actually moved into that area to support the Polish army there. And it was there that he was captured by the Russians. He was sent to Moscow, Lubyanka, tortured. He would not join the Red Army. So Anders, by the fact that he did escape, by the fact that he was held there, he did escape being massacred at Katyn. So he was not obviously one of those 8,000 officers who was murdered in Katyn. So getting back to Stefan. So Stefan is in somewhere way up here in Siberia. And in December, or I'm sorry, in July 3rd of 1941, Germany started what's called Operation Barbarossa. So Germany broke the pact between Russia and Germany invaded Russia from the West. So Russia and Germany were no longer part of their original non-aggression pact. This allowed for an amnesty where Stalin released all the prisoners in Siberia and in the hopes that they would fight for his Red Army. So Anders, because he was one of the few generals that was still alive, was selected and agreed upon by both the Russians and the Poles who were in, at this time, the Polish government that existed obviously was not in Poland, but they were operating out of England, Great Britain. And they decided to make Anders the head of the Polish Second Corps, which was being formed somewhere around down in the southern part of Russia in what's we know as Kazakhstan. So Stefan was kind of miraculously released. He was on his deathbed. He was skin and bones. He was in the infirmary. But he and the other Polish soldiers were freed. They weren't given any money, they weren't given any resources, but they made their own way from way up here in Siberia to make their way down into Kazakhstan, where Anders was forming his army, the Second Corps. Anders was shocked that every day thousands of imprisoned Poles were coming into his camp to join the Polish army. I think it got up to about 90,000 or more, but they were all malnourished. And he was surprised that none of his officers were among those that were coming to the camp. So he had about 90,000 Poles who were joining his army, but no officers or very few officers. The Polish soldiers were given only sticks and brooms. They weren't even applied. Most of them didn't even have weapons in their training. When Anders asked Stalin, "Where are my officers?" Stalin told him that they must have escaped and made their way, out of somewhere into, the southern part of Asia. And Stalin tried to get Anders to agree to send his 90,000 troops to the Eastern Front to fight the Germans. Anders did not agree to that. He didn't like the fact that his men weren't prepared, that they were malnourished. So ultimately he escaped. He was able to get away from Stalin and the Red Army, and he joined British General Montgomery in their fight in Northern Africa. Stalin realized he couldn't feed the army, so he agreed to allow the Anders army to join with the British. So the Anders army crossed the Caspian Sea, and many of them, including my uncle Stefan, who was part of the Carpathian Brigade, fought in battles in Northern Africa. And Stefan, among others, was sent to, after the defeat of the German army, Rommel in 1943, so the Allies now had control of Northern Africa. Then they turned their attention to Italy, because Italy is where the Germans and the Axis were now controlling Italy. And it was very important that the Allies get control of that. So Stefan actually flew on a glider plane with a number of fellow Carpathian Brigade, and they flew on glider planes over the Mediterranean Sea into Sicily, where they were part of Operation Husky. And the Polish army, along with allies, were slowly making their way in battles up into northern Italy. And it was in Italy, in the area of Monte Cassino, that Stefan and his Anders army really made a name for themselves. So this is the abbey right here on Monte Cassino, and this is what it looked like in the early 1940s. Right now, this area it's a beautiful mountain, you know, filled with trees. At this point, you can see it's barren. There's almost no trees. It's just barren because of battles that had been taking place. The Gustav Line was the line that the Germans were holding. And the Gustav Line, which is kind of at the point where the abbey sits, was considered of significant importance to the Allies, because as long as the Germans controlled that, the Allies could not make their way into Rome to liberate Italy. So there were months and months of battles where the Allies were trying to make it past the Gustav Line to defeat the German army, which was heavily fortified in this area right here. And there were 3 attempts made in the early in 1944, from January through April in 1944. 3 attempts were made by the Allies to scale this mountain and defeat the Germans, but they could never make it. And it wasn't until May of 1944 that the Anders Army, the Second Corps, were identified to lead a charge that was going to once again try to overtake the Abbey. My uncle Stefan was in that battle. It lasted, you know, for days. The Polish army led the attack up this mountain. And it was not until the morning of May 18th, 1944, early in the morning, they noticed that there was no return fire. They made it to the top of the Abbey, which by this time was in ruins, and they realized that the Germans had retreated. So the Polish army raised the Polish flag right in the ruins of the Abbey that we look at right there. And it was considered a turning point of the Italian campaign, because once the Allies crossed this line, this Gustav Line, they were then able to liberate Rome, and they continued moving north into Italy in attacks against the German army. So this was what was happening with my uncle Stefan. Now, keep in mind, at this time, my father and his family knew nothing of what happened to Stefan. All they knew was that he left them in 1939. It was in the fall of 1939. They had no idea what had happened to him. So let me backtrack a little bit, go back to 1939, and now tell you a little bit of my father's journey. So as I mentioned, my father and his family, you know, here is the border that was originally divided Poland and Russia. They made their way to Przemyśl, ultimately made their way back to Bochnia. And my father, once he got back to Bochnia, he at this point had turned 16 years old. And at 16, he was commissioned, he was ordered by the Germans to perform work duty for the German army. So he did a lot of manual work in and around the southern part of Poland. They were building a roadway that was going to allow their tanks to invade Russia. My father did that for several years before he ultimately was sent to Austria in a small town near Vienna. It was a butcher's farm. And he was sent there in order to, you know, raise cattle, butcher cattle, to help feed the German army. He was there for several years. While he was there, which was basically a prison, they were doing forced labor, he befriended a Ukrainian a person named Mihal. And they decided that they did not like just being there, not being a part of the liberation, not being able to help the Polish cause. So they decided that they would escape the farm, make their way back to Poland, and ultimately try to find a way to join the Anders army in Italy, because by this point, the Anders army was becoming pretty well known. So in the middle of the night, there was three of them, and there's a lot, obviously, to the story, a lot of adventure, a lot of intrigue. I'm just giving you the highlights. But they did cross this river, which separates separates Austria and Slovakia. In the middle of the night, they waited for the guard behind them to be out of sight. They swam across this river, and they made their way all the way through Slovakia, through the mountains, and back into their homeland in Poland. Now, I've been through the mountains there. So this is a picture of the Carpathian Mountains, the Tatra Mountains. This is the landscape that they traversed to make their way back into Poland. And I can't even imagine how they did that, but they did make their way through the mountains back to Bochnia, where they hid in the attic of my father's home. Obviously, had he been found, he would have been probably arrested, taken to a concentration camp like some of his family members were. In the attic of the home, they devised a plan that they would, much as Stefan did, they would go through the mountains of Slovakia, Hungary, make it into Romania, which they felt at the time was neutral, and then find their way to, get into Italy. So they wanted to go south and then west to traverse the landscape to ultimately join. No, I take it back. They actually wanted to go through Turkey and wanted to go through Northern Africa. I kind of lost myself here. Their plan was to go through Bulgaria, Turkey, into Palestine, and then across the Mediterranean Sea, make it to Italy. The problem is they were captured in Romania. They were accused of being spies for Romania. I'm sorry, they were accused of being spies for Hungary, because at that time, Hungary and Romania were actually at war with one another. On his third attempt from the prison camp that he was in, he and his friend were the only Poles in a prison camp that housed mostly Hungarian prisoners, a few German prisoners. It's a pretty exciting escape attempt. Again, I'm not going to get into all that detail here, but they did make it out, and they were hid in the basement of a cellar of a building. Here is the basement today. It's actually a very nice restaurant in Bucharest. I went there to visit several years ago when I wrote the book. I did a lot of research. I retraced the steps, and this is the cellar where they were hidden. Of course, it didn't look quite as nice when they were hidden down there, but this is the cellar that they were hidden by Polish underground, who ultimately did help them make their way into Italy. So my father did finally make his way into Italy, where he did join the Anders Second Corps. When he went to Italy, he was in an area in northern Italy known as Ancona. And Ancona is where the Anders army was now galvanized, and they were grouping and bringing together Polish forces. By the time my father got there, Germany had surrendered. But to the Poles, to the Polish soldiers, the war was far from over. The Russians were still in control at this point. The Russians were in control of Poland. So the Polish soldiers were preparing to liberate Poland from the Russian occupation. And my father, the reason I took this photo when I was there with him several years ago, when he made his way to Italy, northern Italy, he sensed that his brother Stefan was alive, and he sensed that Stefan was somewhere nearby. So what he would do is he would go to one of the many cemeteries that had Polish soldiers buried. And he would walk in these cemeteries and look at the names to see if his brother's name would be on any of the markers. He never saw his brother's name, but he never had closure of what happened to him. So throughout this time in 1945, my father was part of the Anders Army. He was sent to a officer school, and he was constantly of the belief that he would one day see his brother Stefan. And at a train station near Ancona, on their way to Matera, where he was going to have 6 months of training, my father heard a voice. And sure enough, he looked up and he saw and heard his brother Stefan at the same train station. Stefan was also being sent to the same officer school. So my father and Stefan did reunite. And from everything my father says, it was 6 extremely glorious months that they did spend together. And they both became officers. They were lieutenants in the Second Corps. Unfortunately, by this point, it became known that the Polish soldiers' belief that they would liberate Poland from Russian occupation was not going to happen, because the Yalta Agreement, which was a peace agreement that was signed between the powers, pretty much gave Russia all of Eastern Europe, with Russia's promise that they would allow free elections, they would help develop the countries on the eastern half of Europe. And of course, we all know that that's not what happened. So my father did not go back to Poland. He ultimately was sent to England, and he was assimilated back into society with many of the other Polish soldiers. Stefan didn't go to England. He married an Italian woman. They at the time were not allowed to go to England. He ultimately settled in Argentina. So it was in England that my father met my mother. So this is my father and mother at the left, my mother Iris. They got married in, I believe it was around 1947. And my father and the tens of thousands of Polish soldiers did not go back to Poland. The few who went back to Poland, which was an option, were not treated well. Had Anders gone back to Poland, he would have been arrested. He would have been likely shot. So most of the Poles never were able to go back to Poland. And it was actually 49 years before my father was able to go back to Poland, to his hometown of Bochnia. His parents had both died by this point. He did have 2 living siblings that were still alive when he went back. But it was a long time before Poland was free. The reason I have the picture of this compass is my father, when he was in the Romanian prison camp, he befriended a guard. And he convinced the guard to give him his compass. And he kind of tricked him into it. Obviously, the compass was used to help the escape. The guard was a little bit unwitting, but he did give him the compass. So my father held this compass for many years. And then after my book was released, and with all the things that have happened, we became very good friends with the daughter of General Anders, Anna Maria Anders. Anna Maria's done a lot for my father. She's done a lot for our family. She was, at the time we met her, Poland's Secretary of State. She's now Poland's ambassador to Italy. And we went there to have dinner with her at a Warsaw restaurant leading up to one of the celebrations of the Anders Army. And my father at that time presented her with this compass. And along with the compass was a note that said, "This compass guided me in my quest to join your father's army. I now give it to you in your own quest and journey in life. So it was a pretty special, pretty touching moment. As you can see, my father couldn't be happier. She actually refers to he's become like an adopted father to Anna Maria. She doesn't ask me how is your dad doing? She said, how is dad doing? So we've actually developed a very close and a very special relationship. All of which brings us to today. So we all know, obviously, in the news, the Russia invasion of Ukraine. And my father and I, we meet regularly. We talk, and every meeting is filled with old stories. It just continues. But also, just talking about the war, talking about geopolitics. And I've honestly never met a wiser man than my father. So, of course, he's got a lot to say and a lot to think about the Russian invasion. And I'd like to share some of that with you. So we all know about the Russian invasion. Here is a map today of what is now the Ukraine. We all know that Russia invaded from the north, from the east. We all know that they've already, several years ago, took Crimea. The reasons for them to invade, they were saying at the time, was that Ukraine joining NATO threatened their security. The Ukraine needed to be denazified, and that the Ukraine territory actually belongs to Russia. Now, all of these can, I think, quite easily be debunked. I think Ukraine's reason for joining NATO for protection is very much validated by what we've seen since February of this year. Russia, or the Ukraine, has not invaded any Russia territory, nor has any Western nation invaded Russian territory. There's absolutely no evidence that the Ukraine government has any Nazi element or influence. And the Russian, as far as the claim of Russian territory, for many, many centuries, the territory that we see right here was all part of what was at one time considered the Poland, Ukraine, and Lithuanian Empire. So it's it's not so simple to say that any of those claims really holds true. But as we all know, the Russian propaganda, the messaging that they give, those were the reasons that they gave for the invasion. So what I'd like to do in closing, just a few things, just kind of take a look at the three invasions that we've talked about, look at some similarities, look at what some outcomes were, and see just what lessons we can learn. So if we look back in 1920, 1939, and 2022, in all cases, it was Russia who spearheaded the invasion of what is now the Ukraine territory. There are reasons. In 1920, they wanted to spread communism. They wanted to spread their communist message to the West. In 1939, it was to weaken Poland in the pact with Germany. And in 1922, it was to weaken the Ukraine in the thought that Ukraine joining NATO would weaken Russia. If you look at what the Western reaction was, in 1920, when Russia invaded, it was really little reaction from the West. It was pretty much Piłsudski and what was left of his legions who fought the invaders and kind of by miracle sent them back. Ultimately, the peace agreement that was signed was pretty much gave concession to Russia in terms of their hold of territory. And some of that was, Russia at that time was still fairly new. They still had friends in the West, from the Tsar Empire. They still had influence in Britain. And there was always, the Russian was often giving the message that the Poles are troublemakers, be careful about the Poles. In 1939, when Russia invaded, in the pact that they had with Germany, again, there was very little reaction. France and Britain did declare war, but they did not, and they probably didn't have the strength needed to come in and support Poland. So Poland was once again all by themselves with invaders on both sides. And I think we can agree that, the Yalta agreement that followed, obviously the Polish soldiers, as soon as they learned of the Yalta agreement, they were devastated. They knew what was going to happen. They said Stalin must have given Churchill his best vodka to get Churchill to agree to that, because they said there's no way that the Russians under Stalin were going to have free elections and were going to work with the Eastern European countries in their rebuild. Obviously, that didn't happen. That led to the Cold War. It led to, many things that, you can point to, has made life extremely difficult. In 1922, if you look at the invasion, you can say that the West has been galvanized. The West has provided military aid to the Ukraine, who pretty much is fighting a proxy war. So Ukraine on the battlefield is most definitely holding their own. You could even compare it to Poland's reaction in 1920, when against all odds, they were actually repelling the Russian advances. Of course, in the process, Ukraine is being destroyed. And I think what's happening in this winter and the upcoming months is crucial, because the one hope that Putin probably has is he can wait out the West. He can get the West to lose interest in supporting the Ukraine, and maybe he feels he needs that time, to allow him to meet his aims. So I think it's very important that we look at what's happened in the past, and we say, let's not lose sight. We don't want to, have what's happened in the past continue happening when we really have the opportunity for lasting peace. So the outcome in 1922, obviously, we don't know where that lies, but I think it's really important that our world leaders take lessons from the past, stay united, and just as important, it's equally important that the public understands the importance of this, and that the public support the leaders who are recognizing the importance of having long-lasting peace and not giving in to the Russian demands that have so often occurred in the past. And the last thing I'd like to leave you with is, again, we don't have all the answers right now, but it's important that, that we all stay tuned, we all stay, stay abreast with events. But I did want to, again, just share my privilege, how much I feel honored to be able to speak to you today and to tell you a little bit of my father and my family's story. And hopefully that can, get people to think a little bit, and, as we all, strive and act for peace going forward. I do want to just let you know that my book, Captured in Liberation, is available on my website of abajda.com. I wish we had questions and answers. I would love to answer any questions at this point. Unfortunately, we can't do that in this format, but I will leave my website up here, which is andrewbajda5@gmail.com. And if you do visit my website, it's very easy to order my book from there, which is available on a number of different platforms. And I just have a few videos to share here. I actually have written a screenplay. A lot of people have told me that after reading the book, they said, wow, this would make a really good movie. So I have written a screenplay for it. Maybe at some point in the near future, I'll see what I could do about getting that promoted. But this is just a little video where I'm promoting that screenplay. Just you can hear a few words from my father, who is really amazing. He's now 98. He continues to go to Poland and Italy every year to join in the celebrations. And just to hear a few words from my good friend, Anna Maria Anders, who, as I mentioned, has really become a close, very special friend of ours. And she does an amazing job in keeping the story of her father's army alive and that messaging alive, so that we never forget all the brave sacrifices that so many of the soldiers of the past have made. Because I can tell you, my father goes back every year, but there's fewer and fewer veterans there. I think last year he was one of maybe 3 or 4, and he can barely see anymore. But as long as he's alive and as long as he can, we're going to go with him and to join in those celebrations. So again, that concludes my lecture. I thank you all for taking the time to listen, and I look forward to any continued dialogue that may take place in the future. Thank you.